नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। Hare Krishna. In your class recently, Kripamoya Prabhu, you were mentioning how Srila Prabhupada's purports to the Bhagavatam verses end in the 13th chapter of the 10th canto. And therefore in our temples we don't discuss beyond the 13th chapter of the 10th canto. So that's the practice in the temple, and I think it's a good practice. However, I think we have a little liberty outside the temple. Because otherwise we would never hear these verses, yes? We would never read these verses. And Srila Prabhupada did intend that we should study the entire Bhagavatam all the way till the end of this 12th canto. So I think it would be all right to discuss these verses from the 11th and 12th cantos. In the temples we may not actually do that unless we are quoting them or citing them in the course of the lecture. So this is the 11th canto, chapter 2. Maharaj Nimi meets the 9 Yogendras, and this is text 42. So your smartphones and other electronic gadgets, put them to good use. We don't have a charge, otherwise we can. Very, very nice verse, practical. Bhaktihi para isha anubhavaha viraktihi anyatra cha eshaha ekaha ekakalaha prapadyamanasya yatha ashnataha स्युः तुष्टिः पुष्टिः क्षुत् अपायः अनुघासम् भक्तिः परशानुभवो विरक्ति अन्यत्र चैषा त्रिक एककालः प्रपद्यमानस्य यथाश्नतः स्युः तुष्टिः पुष्टिः क्षुदपायो नुघासम्। So would any of you like to recite these verses?
Bhakti Pareshanubhavo Virakti.
Bhakti Pareshanubhavo Virakti.
Yatra Chaisha Trika Ekakala.
Anyatra Chaisha Trika Ekakala.
Prapadyamanasya Yatashnatachu.
Prapadyamanasya Yatashnatachu.
Tushti Pushti Kshudapayo Nughasam.
Tushti Pushti Kshudapayo Nughasam. Anyone else?
Bhakti Pareshanubhavo Virakti.
Bhakti Pareshanubhavo Virakti.
Anyatra Chaisha Trika Ekakala.
Anyatra Chaisha Trika Ekakala.
Prapadyamanasya yatasnasus tushti pushti shudapayo nubasham
Tushti pushti shudapayo nubasham
Bhakti Pareshanubhavo Virakti
Bhakti Pareshanubhavo Virakti Anyatra Chaishatrika Ekakalaha
Padyamanasya yathasnatakshu
Prapadyamanasya Dhakatakshu Pushti Pushti Shudapayanasam.
Mataji's, anyone?
Bhakti Pareshanubhavo Virakti
Bhakti Pareshanubhavo Virakti
Anyatra Chaishatrika Ekakala
Anyatra Chaishatrika Ekakala
Padyamanasya yatasnatasyus
Prapadyamanasya Dhakatakshu
Tushti Pushti Shudapayanasam
Pushti Pushti Shudapayanasam.
Bhakti, devotion, Parat Isha, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
Of the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
Anubhavaha,
Anubhava,
direct perception,
direct perception,
Viraktihi,
Virakti,
detachment,
detachment,
Anyatra,
Anyatra,
from everything else,
from everything else,
Cha,
Cha,
and,
and,
Eshaha,
Esha,
this,
this,
Trikaha,
Trikaha,
group of three,
group of three,
Ekakalaha,
Ekakalaha,
simultaneously,
simultaneously,
Prapadyamanasya,
Prapadyamanasya,
for one in the process
one in the process
of taking shelter
of taking shelter
of the Supreme Lord,
of the Supreme Lord,
Yatha,
Yatha,
in the same way as,
in the same way as,
Ashnataha,
Ashnataha,
for one engaged in eating,
for one engaged in eating,
Syuhu,
Shuru,
they occur,
Devata,
Tushtihi,
Tushtihi,
satisfaction,
satisfaction,
Pushtihi,
Pushtihi,
nourishment,
nourishment,
Shut Abayaha,
Shrutabayava,
eradication of hunger,
eradication of hunger,
Anughasam,
Anughasam,
increasingly with each morsel.
increasingly with each morsel.
Translation. Devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. These three occur simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the same way that pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger come simultaneously and increasingly with each bite for a person engaged in eating. All glories to eating, because it can instruct us on how to do devotional service. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksharam Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Vishnamathitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karam Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudhakam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savabhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitiname Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyo Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. The Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita, all the scriptures and the teachings of the Acharyas are full of a variety of metaphors and analogies. Because analogies help us to understand deep spiritual truths easier and better. Because spiritual subjects are far beyond the range of our experience, ordinary experience, and our sense perception. So when the scriptures speak about some topics that are beyond our senses, how are we to understand them? It's not easy. To make the task easier, these analogies and metaphors are sometimes given. Keeping in mind, of course, that no analogy and metaphor is actually perfect for illustrating or explaining certain spiritual concepts or phenomena or objects even. For example, I was just quoting one line from Jayadev Goswami's song, where he says, Abhinava Jaladhara Sundara He, that Krishna's complexion is like that of a freshly formed monsoon cloud. But it's just an indication. Krishna's complexion is something quite beyond this world. It is completely transcendental. Truly speaking, it cannot be compared to anything of this world, not even the freshly formed rain cloud. But that's the closest material analogy or example that can be given to make us who have material intelligence and material perception get a glimpse, a small tiny glimpse of what Krishna's complexion could be like. There are many similar other analogies given to Krishna's complexion. So this is just one instance of how these analogies are given because they're helpful, but we must also appreciate that they have their limitations. So this is how Srila Prabhupada, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, yeah, okay. These analogies also have their limitations, but yes, they're helpful. So it's interesting for us to study these analogies. Actually, one time, many years ago, in the early 90s, I started a project I involved about 30, 40, maybe 50 devotees to compile all the analogies from Srila Prabhupada's books. And that was actually a pretext to make everybody read Prabhupada's books. It was a trick. But I also intended to complete it. Somehow it didn't work out. Perhaps if someone is enthusiastic and wants to start a project like that, to compile all the analogies of Srila Prabhupada in the Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Devotion, everything. And then, have a topic-wise thing, everything about, let's say, all the analogies pertaining to the sun and the sunshine, or all the analogies pertaining to the lotus, or all the analogies, now we go the other way around, subject-wise, where about the material world, like a forest fire, like an ocean, like a river. And so, you can really understand everything so nicely. So these analogies are very interesting, very nice actually. And many devotees were so blissful by doing this project. Somehow, I don't know, it fell through for some reason. So if somebody is interested, please take it up. So here we have in this verse the 9 Yogendras. I don't remember which of the 9 Yogendras, I'll tell you in a minute. Because you see, Maharaj Nimi asked them 9 questions. And each of the 9 Yogendras answered each of those questions one by one. So Kavi, Havi, and so on. And this question is about devotional service. Maharaj Nimi wants to know how to discharge devotional service. Tushti Kavi. So this is apparently Kavi probably. So he has compared the process of devotional service to the process of eating. Now the benefit of analogies is that it's something we are used to. We can identify with it. We can relate to these examples because they're so practical, so easy to understand. So all of us have experience of eating. So the 9 Yogendras say here that there are 3 things that happen when we eat. With every morsel of food that we place in our mouth and we chew, of course, then we go through the motions, we swallow and goes into the belly. So with every morsel of food that we do, there are 3 things that happen. Tushtihi, Pushtihi and Kshut Apayaha. Tushtihi means that we feel pleasure, especially when you're eating nice prasadam and you've been hungry for a long time. Yes, many of you did nirjala or at least fasted to some degree. And when you ate, you got some pleasure, a lot of pleasure in eating. So you get increasing pleasure as you keep on placing some morsels of food, of prasadam, into the mouth. The second thing that happens is pushtihi. You start feeling strength. You start getting some nourishment in the body. Now after doing the upavas or the fasting, there is some weakness in the body. We feel a lack of energy, a lack of strength, some fatigue. But when we eat the food, we get the energy back. So that is pushtihi. And the third one is kshut apayaha. Kshut means hunger. So there is the cessation of hunger. The pain of hunger diminishes. We are very hungry and there's a certain kind of pain or a hankering in the belly. And it disturbs and agitates our mind and we wonder, when am I going to eat? I'm so hungry. But with every morsel that we eat, that pain subsides gradually. So these 3 things happen when we eat food. Now, do these three things happen sequentially, one after the other? For example, is it that first we feel pleasure for some time, and then the pleasure stops, and then we start getting nourishment, then the nourishment stops, and then the hunger starts diminishing? Does it happen like that, sequentially? No. It happens simultaneously. Ekakalaha. Trika ekakalaha. So these 3 things happen simultaneously for one who is eating food. Ashnataha. So he mentions here, Yatha ashnataha syuhu. Yatha means as, just as. Ashnataha means to eat. Where do you see this word in the Bhagavad Gita? Which very famous verse, popular verse, a very easy verse, often quoted verse. Where do you see? Sorry? Yajna Shishtashana Santo Muchyante Sarvati Vishay Gunjate Baba Ye Pachante. So, what is it mean here? Hare Krishna. Yajna Shishta. Shishtashana. Hare Krishna. We don't know how they managed in the old days without sound systems. Yes. Everything was much stronger, people were much stronger, the voices were much stronger. They could reach long distances. Yes, that's a good one. Yajna Shishta. Shishta means the remnants. Remnants of Yajna. So Yajna Shishtashinaha. Ashinaha means to eat. Who? Santaha. So those who are saints, so saintly people, purified, who are situated at least in the mode of goodness and beyond, they eat the remnants, they eat Ashnati, they eat the remnants of Yajna. That is food that is offered to Krishna with love and devotion. Because Yajna means acts done for the pleasure of Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna. Yajna vai Vishnu. So good, that's one verse where the word eating, Ashnati comes. Which other verse?
1.25.
Yes?
Patram Pushpam.
Who said that? Yes, excellent. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti paharitam ashnami prayatatmanaha. Ashnami, because Krishna is speaking for himself, I eat. So if someone offers me a leaf, a fruit, a flower or some water with devotion, because it has been offered to me with devotion, I accept it. But the actual word is ashnati, ashnami, which means I actually eat it. So does Krishna eat the flower that we offer, or he just smells it? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says he becomes so blissful when he receives the devotional offerings of his devotees that he loses his composure and he even eats what he's supposed to smell. So he even starts eating the flowers. Yeah? So you remember the story of Vidura's wife offering Krishna banana peels and Krishna happily eating them till Vidura comes back home and is aghast to find what's going on. And Krishna and Vidura's wife are having this transcendental devotional exchange, completely oblivious to what we would consider to be very, very strange, eating banana peels. So, Ashnami Atmanaha, because it has been offered with love by my devotees, I eat, I accept it. So this is a word here also, here we find Yathashnataha, Yatha Ashnataha. So just as in the process of eating, Trika Eka Kalaha, three things happen simultaneously, Tushti, Pushti, Kshutapayo, Anughasam. Ghasam means a morsel. Anu means with every succeeding morsel. Anu usually refers to a succession of acts. It means many things, but in this context, like Anushilanam, like that. To keep on doing something. So just as these three things happen simultaneously with every morsel of food that we eat, similarly, Prapatyamanasya, for one who has surrendered to Lord Krishna, three things happen simultaneously. The word Prapadya, where have you come across this? Which verses? Very important words for us. Eating is of course very important, so I mentioned that, but surrendering is more important. Tadvadhi pradipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadikshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. So pradipatena, nipata, surrender. But here the word is prapadya. Where else do you see this word prapadya? Yes? Ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajamiham. As one surrenders to me, I reward him accordingly. Prapadya. So the word surrender, prapadya, occurs many times in our scriptures, the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the Sri Sampradaya, this word is especially important. Ramanujacharya, he wrote this, his teachings were called teachings of Prapatti. Prapatti also is Prapadya, the same root. So in the Sri Sampradaya, they call it Prapatti. So Prapadya, so for one who surrenders to Krishna, three things happen simultaneously. The process of devotional service is all about surrender, isn't it? Devotional service is based on surrender. When you surrender to Krishna, then you do what Krishna wants you to do. In a battle or in any other experience of life, when we surrender to someone, what does it mean? What is the simplest definition of surrender? Yes, there is a definition in Hari Bhakti Vilas where there are 6 limbs of surrender, etc. I'm sure most of you are aware of what they are. But in very simple language, what do we mean by the word surrender to Krishna or to anyone? Depend, okay, that's one thing, but in very simple language.
To follow.
Follow, yes. Follow what?
Instructions.
Instructions. Whose instructions? the person you are surrendering to. Okay, so surrender means to basically just do what you're told to do by the person you surrender to. So in the battle, okay, hands up, yes, surrender. We're surrendered, so we'll do what you say. We'll come there, we'll do whatever you want us to do. So even in a battle, yes, they have the gun, the surrender is like this. So in this age, Kali Yuga, Mahaprabhu has come and taught us also, hands up, surrender. Yes, we surrender to Krishna. And what's the weapon? The weapon is the holy names that can destroy the anarthas in our heart. So we surrender to the holy name, we surrender to Krishna, to the process of Krishna consciousness. Namashraya kori yatane tumi thakaha apana kaje. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said that now that you're tired of all your materialistic activities, having gone through so many lives in this material world, please now take shelter of the holy name. Nam Ashraya Kari. Now Nam Ashraya, Nam Grahana, they're two different things. Grahana means to accept the name. You chant the holy names. Maybe you have some devotion, you have some piety, you have some interest in chanting the holy names, etc. But that's something different from taking shelter of the holy name. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is asking us not simply to just accept the holy name, but he's saying accept it in a mood of complete surrender. Take shelter of the holy name. So we are surrendering to Krishna, we are surrendering to the holy name, we are doing what we are asked to do. So when a devotee does that, follows Krishna's instructions, follows the instructions of Krishna's pure devotees, the acharyas, then three things happen simultaneously. And these three things will happen progressively, quantitatively and qualitatively according to the kind of surrender we have. Just like if you're eating a morsel, but the morsel is really tiny, just take a little bit of chapati, just a little bit. Yes, you're eating a morsel, but that's not going to do much. So principle works, yes, tushti, pushti, kshudapaya, but it's going to take a long, long time. Some of you who have small children, you know when they start eating meals, how it happens. They take forever to eat a meal, yeah? Like they eat a little thing and then wander somewhere, come back, do something else, a little something in the mouth, and you have to force feed them. So the average surrendering process in devotional service is like that. A little something, go away somewhere, a little television, a little movie, a little back to chanting, a little this, a little that. Come back after some time. Come on, do it. Yeah, okay, a little something. So the analogy is actually quite interesting. There's a strong parallel there. So when our surrender is very deep, when it is very sincere, then the result is faster. This reminds me of a little story. When in childhood we used to hear all these Akbar and Birbal stories, yeah? The king. Of course, these are apocryphal. They probably most likely didn't happen between Akbar and Birbal, but it's just attributed to them. One time, Akbar said, when are you going to... He had this competition. He announced, because, kings are very temperamental. They come up with all the strangest of ideas and plans at times. And what can you say to a king? If you protest, you'll have your head chopped off, so you just have to go along. So he said, it's very cold now, and I want to see who can stand in the Yamuna all night in the freezing water up to his neck. Let's have a competition, and whoever is able to do that, I will reward that person with a very generous reward. So naturally, there were many citizens who came forward to participate in this contest or this challenge, but they couldn't last more than a few minutes. It was so cold, the water. But one man did it, and he lasted through the night. He was in that bitterly cold water, which was almost freezing. You know, sometimes in Vrindavan, the temperatures in winter go down to 1 degree. That's the coldest I have experienced. But remember, there's no heating like you have here. The cold of Vrindavan is not as bitter as the cold in England. It may go down to -5 or -10 or whatever. But there's no heating in Vrindavan. So even +1 is very difficult to bear. So this man was in the water all night long. And there was one minister who was quite a jealous man. So he didn't want somebody to get the reward. So he said, Your Honor, Your Highness, this man has cheated. Now, how has he cheated? You know, all night long as he stood in the water, he was gazing. There's a temple there in the distance. And, you know, the lamp has been placed on top of that temple. So he was gazing at the lamp and he was drawing warmth from that flame. You know, the temple was in the distance, far away. So the king, being a king, temperamental as he is, oh really? Off with his head. So now he didn't get the reward and he was, you know, destined to die. So this man was very much aggrieved. What did he do? He went to Birbal, the wise minister of the king, the only one who can actually reprimand or correct the king. So Birbal said, don't worry, I'll settle matters for you. So he told the king, please come to my house for prasadam. He didn't use the word prasadam, he said for food. Please come to my house for food. So, and the date and time was decided. And the king came at the appointed time and he was looking forward to a nice feast, but there didn't seem to be anything going on in the house. So he sat and Birbal engaged him in all sorts of pleasant conversation. But as time passed, the king was getting hungry. He said, Birbal, you know, I'm getting a little hungry. What's up? Where's the prasadam? Where's the food? So he's just now coming. He's just getting ready. So okay, he had to be courteous. After all, he was in the house of the host. So another half an hour went by and he was getting hungry. And Birbal, I'm really hungry now. Where's the food? It's getting ready, Your Highness, just now. Please do something, I'm hungry. Another half an hour, and finally Akbar just couldn't tolerate it. Akbar, just tell me, Birbal, what on earth is going on? I'm very hungry now. Show me what you're doing. Where's the cooking going on? And then he went inside the kitchen, and there was a there was a small fire, very small fire, you know, for some twigs and everything. And there was a pot that was hanging up on the ceiling. And so Akbar said, where's the food? Where's the cooking going on? He said, there's the rice. What do you mean? This flame here is cooking the rice there. So, Birbal, are you testing me? You know I'm a king. I can cut off your head. You know that? So he said, oh, Your Highness, if a flame on the top of a temple, you know, many hundreds of meters away, can warm somebody who's standing in the cold Yamuna and he can draw heat from that, surely the rice there is just a few feet away. He can draw heat from this little flame here. Then Akbar surrendered. He said, yeah, Birbal, you're too clever for me. He said, okay, I'm sorry. So he reversed his decision and gave a very generous reward to that person. So what's the moral of the story? The moral of the story is that our surrendering process, our devotional service, if it is like this little tiny flame, and the fuel is just a few twigs here and there, keeps getting extinguished and you have to put a few twigs here and there, then the cooking of devotion in the heart is going to take a long time. But if the fire is strong, if it is consistent, then the rice will cook timely and it will cook nicely and evenly everywhere. By the way, cooking in mud pots is very healthy, it's very delicious, and it's very nutritious also. So try cooking dal and rice in mud pots if you can. It's very interesting, very nice. So anyway, that's the process of surrender. To the extent that we seriously take shelter of Krishna, to the extent that we actually follow the instructions of Krishna very actively, to that degree, these three things will happen with every step of our process of bhakti. What are those three? One, he says bhakti, which means devotion. The second is para isha anubhavaha. Para means supreme, isha means controller. So paresha or para isha means the supreme controller, the supreme lord. Anubhavaha means the experience. So the second thing that happens is we have direct experience of the Supreme Lord. And third is viraktir anyatra. Virakti means detachment. Anyatra means from that which is separate from Krishna, which is different from Krishna. So these are the three things that happen when one surrenders to Krishna. Bhakti, pareshanubhavaha, and viraktir anyatra. So shall we say the three things again? The three things that happen when we surrender to Krishna, step by step. What is it?
Bhakti.
Bhakti, which means devotion to Krishna. Second, pareshanubhavo viraktihi. I beg your pardon. Pareshanubhavaha. That means experience of the Supreme Lord. And the third, viraktir anyatra. Detachment from things not connected to Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada cites this verse many times in his lectures and also, of course, in his purports. And he focuses on, amongst these three, he focuses in most of his lectures when he cites this verse, he focuses on the third one, viraktir anyatra. He says when one surrenders to Krishna and renders devotional service very seriously, then he says bas. Bas means, that's it. No more material enjoyment, no more material life. You get satiated. You don't want anything more to do with the things of this world. Because now you're tasting something higher. So it is not virakti simply, it is virakti anyatra. This word anyatra is very significant because it means detachment from things not connected to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada many times speaks about two kinds of renunciation or detachment. Do you know which are the two kinds of renunciation? Yukta Vairagya and Phalgu Vairagya. Yukta Vairagya means a real detachment, a real renunciation. And what do you do in Yukta Vairagya? You engage everything that can possibly be engaged in Krishna's service. Does anyone remember the verse? Yes? Yes. Wonderful. Anasaktasya vishayan yatharham upayunjatah nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate. So, anasaktasya vishayan. Asakta means to be attached, anasakta means to be detached. So when we are detached with the objects of the senses, and nirbandhaha, without any bondage, Krishna sambandhe, we see that in connection with Krishna. So, anasaktasya vishayan yatharham upayunjataha. Yatharham means we engage it appropriately. Yatha arham, suitably. We engage things suitably in Krishna's service, nirbandhaha Krishna sambandhe, without being attached to those objects for our own sense gratification, then that is called yukta vairagya. Yuktam vairagyam uchyate. As opposed to that, there is Phalgu vairagya. Who remembers the verse of Phalgu vairagya? Anyone? Yes, Mataji. Yes? What's the first line? Huh?
Forgot the first line.
You have your Google. G for Google, G for God. Yeah. So you know this word Phalgu, Vairagya, where it comes from? Phalgu river. Why so?
Because it looks very, very quiet and from bottom it is quiet.
Very?
On the top it is very quiet river, and then underneath it is very deep.
Yes, actually in Gaya, this is in Gaya. Some of you may have gone to Gaya to perform the Shraddha of your forefathers or something. There is a river called Phalgu nearby. And you don't realize it's a river. You know, there's only sand there. But actually it's a river. You go there, you fall into it. Yes? So it's a kind of a very deceptive river. You don't realize, yes, that it's a river. So also such renunciation which appears like renunciation but is not actually renunciation is called Phalgu Vairagya. Mumukshubhehi parityago Phalgu Vairagyam Kuthyate. So for those who are desirous of liberation, when they give up parityagaha, mumukshubhi parityagaha, they give up all these items, hari sambandhi vastunaha, items which can otherwise be engaged in Krishna's service. When they give that up, that is called false renunciation, Phalgu Vairagya. So it's very important for us. Srila Prabhupada says, he gives the examples of monkeys in the forest. And he says that monkeys, they seem very renounced. They don't even wear clothes. They're like that avadut who just wanders without any clothes. They don't have a house. They eat only roots and berries. But their life is full of sense gratification. So in the same way, those who take to the renounced order of life, but in the name of renunciation or austerity, they neglect to use things that could otherwise be used in Lord Krishna's service. They reject them in the name of renunciation. That renunciation is false. Prabhupada said there are many sadhus or sannyasis. When people go to them with money, they say, no, I'm a sannyasi, I can't touch money. I have given up this world, I've renounced this world. I can't touch money. But Prabhupada said, if somebody comes and offers me money, I will happily accept it. Because I'm going to use it for Krishna's service. Because I know that this Lakshmi, this money is Lakshmi Devi. And Lakshmi Devi has to be used in the service of Lord Narayan. In fact, if we don't use Lakshmi Devi for the service of Lord Narayan, Prabhupada said, we are like Ravana, who wanted to kidnap Sita Devi from Lord Ramachandra. So, but in most places we see that people like to worship Lakshmi without Lord Narayan. So they also do Lakshmi Puja to get the mercy of Lakshmi Devi, so they get lots of money. But that's not the proper approach. So Prabhupada says, no, we must accept anything that's available for Krishna's service. Things that are not utilizable for the service of the Lord, those things we can't utilize. We can offer to Krishna only those things that are offerable. One time somebody asked me this question. You know, people many times ask questions just for the sake of asking, you know. Have you experienced such things? They're not really serious about it, but they just ask you to irritate you, to annoy you. And if you get angry, then they say, you're a devotee, you shouldn't get angry. Yes? So be prepared for such people and such questions. So one time I was speaking about this Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam verse, and this person gets up in the class, and after the class, during questions, he said, what if I offer alcohol to Krishna and drink it? Yes? I'm offering. Krishna says, whatever you eat, you offer unto me, and you Yat karoshi yad ashnasi. Ashnasi, the word ashnasi comes again here. Yat karoshi, whatever you do. Yat ashnasi, whatever you eat, you offer to me and you eat it. So Krishna is saying this. Therefore I will offer alcohol and I will drink it. If you were asked this question, how would you answer it?
Krishna doesn't say that in Patram Pushpam Phalam.
Yes, Krishna says Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. He doesn't say, what you call whiskey and beer and gin. say that? Jiva Goswami explains in his commentaries, he gives a very beautiful example. He says that in a country, people are free to choose their vocations of their occupations, right? So someone can be a teacher, someone can be a lawyer, someone can be a doctor. So someone may say, well then I want to be a thief. Because you are saying the government is giving everyone the freedom to choose their vocation, so I want to be a thief. But Jiva Goswami says no. Because when the government says choose your own vocation, it's understood that that vocation has to be within the laws of the land. You cannot violate the laws of the land and choose a profession. Your profession has to be within this particular ambit, within this framework. So similarly, when Krishna says, Yad Ashnasi, whatever you eat you offer to me, this injunction is circumscribed by the Vedic injunctions. That you can't offer to Krishna that which is not offerable, which Krishna doesn't want. So therefore, we offer things. If there are some things that can be utilized in Krishna's service, we should utilize it without any expectation of a sense gratification from it. And falsely not utilizing these things in Krishna's service is false renunciation. So therefore the other items that are not offerable, yes, we don't utilize them in Krishna's service. Therefore the word anyatra. The anyatra means that which is different from, which cannot be utilized in Krishna's service. So alcohol cannot be utilized in Krishna's service. Therefore we can't offer to Krishna. Those in the name of austerity who just sit and are lazy, especially many renunciants. Prabhupada used to speak about many mendicants in Vrindavan and at the other holy places of India, where they take to a life of a sadhu because it's easy chapatis. You just sit and you beg and you can get your food. You don't have to work in a job. You don't have to have any austerity. You don't have to take responsibilities in your life. So Prabhupada said that's not the kind of austerity and renunciation that is needed. And then he cited a particular idiom, or I think some kind of a poem which must have been popular in Prabhupada's time in India. But in the modern generations, I've never heard this proverb statement. I think it was something like this: big, what's that? Big food, big monkey, big belly, salon jumping, melancholy. Have you heard this? Yes? You heard? Okay. Big monkey, big belly, salon jumping, melancholy. So what's the meaning? He says, some monkeys, they have big bellies because they eat a lot. They eat a lot of food. But when it comes to do something like Hanuman, Ceylon jumping, Sri Lanka used to be known as Ceylon some years ago. So Ceylon jumping, Hanuman did such a phenomenal service for Lord Ramachandra by jumping across the ocean and going to Lanka to find Sita. He went to Ceylon. So when they're asked to do something grand, something exceptional for the service of the Lord, melancholy, they become despondent, they become sad. Oh no, I can't do that service. So similarly, for sadhus who to just sit and eat and sleep, that's not renunciation. If you lead a life of renunciation, Prabhupada said, you must be active in doing devotional service. You must serve, follow in the footsteps of Hanuman and do service to the Lord, which means preaching and rendering other types of devotional service. So this is the idea of renunciation. And incidentally, many devotees ask the question, how does one know that one is advancing in devotional service, in Krishna consciousness? A very important question. And the answer is very simple, and that's actually given in this verse here. Just as when you are eating and you feel the difference, you feel the pleasure, you feel the strength coming back, you feel the hunger abating. Similarly, when you're doing devotional service, you should start experiencing these three things. Bhakti, Parishanubhavo, Virakti, Ramyatra. That is our thermometer, our test. If you're not experiencing increasing love for the Lord, if you're not getting attracted by the Lord more, if you're not experiencing the Lord in our life, if our clarity of conception of the spiritual world or spiritual subjects is not deepening by the day, and if we are not experiencing detachment from things not connected to Krishna consciousness, then it means there's something that we're doing wrong. So if we do things right, we will actually be able to experience a gradual progression in these three phenomena. Another simple example could be of a person who's sick. When you have a sickness and there are symptoms. The symptoms may be, for example, a loss of appetite, it may be fever, it may be some cough or something like that. But as you take the medicines and follow the do's and don'ts of the doctor, then these symptoms will also start abating. Your fever will come down, your appetite will come back to normal. Yes, gradually, step by step. Depending on the severity of the disease, depending on how good a patient is, depending on whether you've got the medicines from the right doctor, and whether you're actually taking the medicines properly as per the prescription. So also in devotional service, these things will come automatically. Another important point that Srila Prabhupada makes elsewhere is that, and is there in the Bhagavatam as well, that when we become devotees of the Lord, we do not need to extraneously, separately strive for renunciation. It comes automatically. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayatyasha Vairajyam Jnanam Chaveda Havitukam. So it is said in the Bhagavatam that when one renders devotional service to Lord Vasudeva, Vasudeva Bhagavati, Bhagavati means unto Bhagavan, who is known as Vasudeva. Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha. So when one engages in devotional service to Lord Vasudeva or Krishna, Janayati, there arises Ashu very quickly, Jnanam, that is knowledge, and Vairagyam, that is renunciation, Ahaitukam, that is causeless. In other words, when there is bhakti, Vairagya or renunciation, and Jnana or knowledge automatically comes. There's this little passage from the Bhagavad Mahatmya, the Padma Purana. When Narad Muni is traveling, one time he comes across a very strange sight. He sees this very beautiful looking young lady who is sitting on the bank of the Yamuna, and she is weeping. And next to her are two old men who are obviously very sick and practically on the verge of death. And surrounding them are many other ladies who are trying to console this lady who is weeping. And Narad Muni doesn't understand what this is all about, so he goes and asks this lady, "My dear lady, who are you? And why are you grieving in this way? And who are these two gentlemen here? And who are all these ladies who are there to assist you?" So she says, "I am Bhakti Devi, the goddess of devotion. And these two are my sons, Jnana and Vairagya, knowledge and renunciation." And Narad Muni is puzzled. He said, "You are young, but your sons are old. How does that happen?" So he wants to know more, because naturally the mother grows old, but children are young. You never see the reverse, where the mother is a young lady and the sons they have become very old. So Narad Muni is intrigued. So he asks further. So Bhakti Devi says, "Let me tell you my sad story." She says, "I was born in Dravida Desha." Dravida means south, one of our devotees, Prabhupada's disciples called Dravida Das, yeah, Dravida Prabhu. I was born in Dravida Desha. Incidentally, the 11th canto also speaks about the Holy Land in Dravida Desha, which has many holy rivers like Kaveri and Tunga and Bhadra and so on. It's a place where the Alvars and the Sri Sampradaya Acharyas are indirectly predicted in the 11th canto. So she says, I was born in Dravida Desha, and then I grew up in Karnataka, what is present-day Karnataka. And then I was appreciated in what is today the land of Maharashtra. Of course, in Karnataka, we had many great saints like, Madhvacharya came up. Ramanuja and the Alvar Sri Sampradayas, they came further south. And then Madhvacharya, and there were many other great devotees like Purandar Das and Kanaka Das, glorious devotees of the Lord. And then further up, then I was appreciated there. There were great devotees like Pandharpur and, in Tukaram in Pandharpur, etc. And now I have a bit of news for many of you are Gujarati. How many of you are Gujarati? Yeah? Okay, don't feel bad. Yeah, having performed so many Gujarati weddings, you're almost a Gujarati. Yeah. So, a bit of news for all of you from Gujarat. And Bhakti says, when I came to Gujarat, I was really mistreated. And many people who were rogues, they started beating me and I had to flee from there. And my sons became very old, meaning that people were not at all interested in bhakti, they had no interest in vairagya, no interest in jnana, in transcendental knowledge. Hare Krishna, 24-hour kirtan of Vrindavan. Yes. So then she said, I fled and I came to Vrindavan. When I came to Vrindavan, I got my life back. Not only my life, I got my youth back again. I was no longer an old lady. I regained my youth, but unfortunately, my sons, Gyan and Vairagya, they're still like old people. Why so? Most likely because even in Vrindavan, you have many people who are not interested in Vairagya, who will live very cozy, comfortable, luxurious lives in Vrindavan. Yes? Nowadays, Vrindavan has all sorts of comforts, air conditioning, and so many other things that go on. Well, at least that is acceptable, but things beyond that, there's many other things that happen as well. So, therefore, Gyan and Vairagya, they have become old. So who are all these other ladies with you? She said, they're all the holy places. This is Ganga, this is Yamuna, this is Kaveri. See, all the holy rivers, their personified forms as young ladies have come to serve me. So Narad Muni was feeling very sorry for the state of bhakti. But then he chanted the holy names, and then Bhakti Devi was revived, and gradually Jnana and Vairagya also automatically became revived. It's a long description, I won't go into the details of all that. So the point being that Bhakti is the mother, and Vairagya or renunciation and Jnana or knowledge are the two sons of Bhakti. So you can't have true Jnana and true Vairagya without Bhakti, inasmuch as you can't have the children without the mother. So where the mother is there, the children are there. So where there is Bhakti, automatically Jnana and Vairagya is there. So if we render devotional service, prapadyamanasya, then yes, the love for the Lord will awaken, the attraction for Krishna will increase in our heart. The Maya that is making us not attracted to the all-attractive one will slowly start retreating, understanding that now the matter is being taken control of by Krishna, our Lord and Master himself. And then, as we render bhakti, this vairagya will come as a byproduct. Of course, we also have to make actual attempts. We can't wait till we become pure devotees and then stop giving up tea and coffee and garlic and stop other prohibited activities. So it is equally important that out of obedience to the injunctions of the scriptures and of the acharyas, the spiritual master, we follow these don'ts as well. And then the process of bhakti will be quicker. The cooking process will be very fast. And we will see these three things happening very quickly in our life. Bhakti, what else? Paraklisha anupavaha, we will experience the Lord in our life, and viraktir anyatra. There are many other comments of Jiva Goswami, etc., that are mentioned in the purport, but it will be very time-consuming. Those of you who want to get a deeper insight into this verse, you're welcome to read the purports in this. Now I will ask our senior devotees here to please share a few words of your experience, any comments, anything you want to add to this beautiful verse here.
Well, thank you, Maharaj. From your class, I was feeling devotion. I was feeling nourishment. And I was feeling my hunger dissipate. So these three tests I faced then. I was thinking this discussion that some of the Ramanujas have, where they talk about property being a one-time thing. And sometimes devotees also say that. They ask each other, when did you surrender? And they say, well, I got initiated on January 2015. I surrendered, that was when I surrendered. And sometimes we think of surrender as something ultimate. That one day I will finally surrender to Krishna. So you've described it as a process.
Yes.
But some philosophers say, once you surrender, there's nothing that you can do to really force Krishna to take that everything away from you. You just have to keep on going. And you have to wait until such time as it happens. And then others will say, more like you're saying, no, you have to work at it, because the surrender is just the beginning of the process. So please, could you say something and enlighten me? I'm confused.
I was looking forward more to some comments.
No. How do you have to pay?
Sorry? Yeah, but anyway, Kripamoy Prabhu's question is that in the Sri Sampradaya, prapatti, or the surrender is generally considered as a one-time thing. And even in ISKCON, we see many times devotees say that, okay, at the time of initiation, they say, this is when I surrendered to my spiritual master. So, is surrender a one-time thing that once it's done, and you just keep going? Or is it a continuous thing? Is it a process that continues forever? Well, it's both. It's both, because without the first step of surrendering completely, you can't progress. You can't do the process. Like, for example, swimming. You're swimming across the ocean of material existence. Is it a one-time thing? You start, you dive in. So the initial surrender is like diving in. But once you dive in, then you have to keep swimming. You can't just say, I've dived in, so now I can just be there. I have to be active. I have to perform acts of surrender on a regular basis. Surrender means, as I mentioned, activity. There must be acts in obedience to the instructions of the Lord and the acharyas. So these acts must be done every day. So to the extent that we don't do these acts, to that degree we have taken one step back from the surrendering process. So we started out the process of surrender and then we continue. Of course, in the Sri Sampradaya there's also that controversy about the Markata Nyaya and the Marjara Nyaya, the monkey and the kitten, and what is surrender. But surrender for us is a combination of both. It's an active process. It's not a passive one-time process. But even in the Ramanuja Sampradaya, when they speak about prapatti as being one time, it doesn't mean that there is no activity of surrender later. The surrendering process continues. Every time our surrender is tested. And we can see the followers of Ramanuja, they were tested severely at times. Ramanuja himself was tested many, many times. And each time they had to appear for that test and pass it. So they had to surrender at that given moment. So it is also a given moment. We may be surrendering into external terms, in terms of taking diksha or let's say starting of devotional activities, but we have to continue doing that, right? All through. And it goes on unlimitedly even in the spiritual world. But of course there the platform is different.
Thank you.
Yes. But any comments, please? Something that can enlighten all of us, something you want to share. And Havi Prabhu and Sri Guru Charana Padramataji also, please, you can share some thoughts, any realizations, or any.
Well, there is one devotee in our community. He's from Maharashtra.
Uh-huh.
And he says that in Maharashtra, the 11th canto is practically the Bible of the whole of the state of Maharashtra.
Yeah.
Huh? Ekadash Skanda. They will sing it, they will recite it.
Elaborated by
Ekanath Maharaj.
Yes.
So I'm just interested. Well, again, it's a question. I mean, I don't ask you another question because you commanded me to make a comment. That is my comment. That the 11th canto seems to be very important, especially the Uddhava Gita, because in the Bhagavad Gita we have 700 verses, most of which are spoken by the Lord, and in the Uddhava Gita we have 1200 verses, where Krishna seems, 36 years later, he seems to continue his discussion, but he doesn't just say patram pushpam palam toyam. He gets into the details of what he likes. He seems to come out with lists that you should surrender by offering me this, and this, and this, and this. So it's very interesting for a bhakta to read the Lord getting into detail about what he wants. But you made a point of talking about Ashnami. One time Prabhupada was at the Krishna Balaram temple, and he was looking at how many visitors they had. And I don't know if I can mention the name of an organization, but it ends with the words Samaj. And it begins with an A. And so Prabhupada was saying, he said, they say that Krishna cannot eat.
Yeah.
They say that Krishna does not eat. And therefore we should not worship the deity of the Lord, because he doesn't eat anyway. But Krishna himself says, Ashnami.
I eat.
He says, I eat. He said, who is going to their temple?